All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a cyber attack that was so ridiculously clever, it managed to hit over 200 companies all at once. And look, this isn't just another story about a data breach. No, this is a massive wake-up call about a really critical weakness in our whole connected world. So it all kicks off with this one number, 200. That's how many companies, we're talking big names and small startups, suddenly found their data stolen. And at first, it looked like just one huge brute force attack. But the truth? Well, the truth was way more subtle and honestly, a lot more scary. So you gotta ask, right? How is that even possible? How does a single hacking campaign just waltz through the defenses of hundreds of different companies? Well, this is the story of something called a supply chain hack. It's a type of attack that weaponizes the very trust our entire digital economy is built on. Okay, let's break this down. The first real alarm bell came from Google's Threat Intelligence Group. These are the folks who see this stuff first, and they found that a massive trove of data from Salesforce had been snatched. Now, if you don't know, Salesforce is used by basically everyone. So this wasn't just one company's bad day. This was a five-alarm fire for the entire tech industry. And get this, the hackers didn't even try to hide. They came out swinging, immediately naming and shaming their victims. We're talking huge household names in tech, finance, you name it. Can you imagine being on the security team at LinkedIn or Verizon that day? It must have been absolute chaos, a mad scramble to figure out what was going on. So the big question is, how did they do it? How did they pull off something on this scale? Well, it wasn't by hacking 200 companies one by one. No, that would be way too much work. Instead, it was this brilliant, terrifying chain reaction, a digital domino effect. And it all started with just one little push on the first domino. And this is where it gets really interesting. This is the anatomy of the hack, right here. It's a textbook supply chain attack. So first, the hackers went after a marketing platform, Salesloft. From there, they were able to steal these digital keys. They're called authentication tokens that gave them access to another app. With those keys in hand, they broke into a company called Gainsight. And here's the kicker, the absolute genius of the attack. Gainsight was plugged into the Salesforce accounts of all of its customers. So the hackers didn't need to pick 200 locks. They just found the one master key, walked right through Gainsight's door, and suddenly they had the keys to the kingdom for all those other companies. You know, with a breach this massive, the finger pointing starts almost instantly. So let's take a look at the key players here, the hackers, the platforms, the victims, and see how they reacted as everything was going down. Because trust me, their official statements tell a fascinating story all on their own. First up, the attackers themselves. A group with the wild name of Scattered Lapsus Hunters stepped up to take credit. This is a collective that includes the notorious ShinyHunters gang. And these guys are known for being crafty. They're not about smashing down the door. They're all about social engineering, tricking an employee into just handing over the keys. They've hit big targets before. So yeah, this was definitely not their first rodeo. And their name alone is enough to send shivers down any security chief's spine. Okay, so what about Salesforce? I mean, it was their platform where all this data lived. They came out fast and made one thing crystal clear. Their platform was not breached. The problem, they said, was with a third-party app that connects into Salesforce. Basically, they were saying, hey, our house is a fortress, but one of our partners gave a copy of their key to a burglar. But the hackers? Oh, they told a very different story, and they were brutally direct about it. They laid out the entire attack path with this chilling clarity. They pointed the fingers straight at Gainsight, calling it the domino that toppled, and gave them a backdoor into the entire Salesforce ecosystem for all those other companies. Meanwhile, you've got all these huge companies named as victims, and they are in full-on damage control mode. And the responses were, well, all over the place. You had CrowdStrike saying, nope, not us, we are not affected. DocuSign was like, we don't see any breach, but we're cutting off Gainsight right now just to be safe. And then others were just giving the classic, we are actively investigating. It's a perfect snapshot of the chaos and confusion that erupts after a big hack like this. So why do all this? Well, this was never just about stealing data for bragging rights. No, this was about money. It was about leveraging that stolen information for profit. And the hackers' next move made their endgame perfectly, undeniably clear. This is where they played their trump card, extortion.
The group announced they were going to launch a public website, basically a shame site, where they would leak all the stolen data unless the victim companies paid a ransom. I mean, think about that. It puts these companies in an absolutely impossible position. Do you pay the criminals? Or do you risk having all of your customers' sensitive data dumped online for the whole world to see?
And this, right here, this is the big takeaway from this entire mess. It's the whole point. Your security is only as good as the security of your weakest partner. You can spend millions building an impenetrable digital fortress, firewalls, multi-factor authentication, the whole shebang. But none of that matters if you hand a key to a vendor who leaves it under their doormat. The game has changed. Your security isn't just your problem anymore. It's a shared problem with every single software vendor you work with. So, what does this all mean? It leaves us with this huge, lingering question for the way we do business today. In this hyper-connected world where every company relies on a web of other software to function, who is really responsible for keeping your data safe? And the answer isn't simple. It's not about pointing a finger and finding someone to blame. It's about a fundamental shift in thinking. We have to realize that in this massive, interconnected ecosystem, security has to be a shared responsibility. Because you can bet the next digital domino effect, well, it might already be in motion.